Do you need an associate and not even know it? It's Paul, Dr. Nacho, founder of Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect, talking with Bob and Brighton of Dental Partner Pros, an awesome sponsor of both of our companies. And they do the work of the Lord G.V. Black, that's a famous dentist, guys, G.V. Black, in helping dentists not only hire associates, but onboard them, systems for success, and more. Brighton and Bob, thanks so much for joining us today. Just catch our audience up, orient them a little bit. I'll let you go first, Bob, as to what you do on a day-to-day basis to help dentists feel less like this inside. This is the cry inside monster. This is where dentists have to keep their crying, sweating on the outside, crying on the inside. So tell us, what does Dental Partner Pros do to reduce crying inside?
You bet, Paul. And let me just, it's Dentist Partner Pros.
Oh, gotcha. Dentist Partner Pros.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I think we've got to change the name because it keeps being called
keeps happening.
Maybe you can get like
we've got both.
You can deviate for both of them. You guys got to capture both.
Exactly. We've got both URLs, so it's okay. No worries.
Nice.
It's just so people are searching Dentist Partner Pros. Well, Paul, you know what? How we keep this little monster from leaping out inside and then suddenly at times showing up with the team is to be able to help dentists get their life back.
Yeah.
What we find is that really, really successful dentists reach this kind of point where they've got to make a decision in terms of, man, how do I get my life back? I'm busier than I want to be. And yet there seems to be like this massive chasm between where I am and where I think I could go. And the way I build that bridge is by bringing another dentist on. But I've heard so many horror stories about how bad it can be, what it's like. Man, can I manage somebody else? I can't even keep up with the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
How can I entertain the thought of having someone else? And what we love to do is to be able to actually be the engineers to build that bridge for them.
Love that. That's
okay.
Well, I mean, one of the things that drives me a little nacho nuts, and Brighton, you can take this too, is that dentists will hire another hygienist when they need more hygiene visits. They will hire another front desk team member when they need the phone answered. They will hire another assistant. But when you say, oh, you're ready to hire an associate dentist, they say, no, not for me. I said, well, you're working 5 days a week. You have 3,000 active patients. Are you having any fun? Like, no, I'm having none fun.
No.
Yeah. So Brighton, tell us a little bit more about these pain points and how you dentists.
It's the classic. Yeah, I mean, it's the classic case of the golden handcuffs, right? We, as a provider, you become so busy, you become your worst enemy, in a sense that you can't scale or grow any more beyond yourself, but you're so busy and crazy attached to your practice that you can't actually take vacation or have your life back. And so it's this like really, really difficult scenario people find themselves in. And I mean, we see it all the time in the Facebook community, Paul, where people are asking, should I get an associate? Should I not? Why not? And then there's always the conversation happening in the comments where people are saying, don't do it. I've heard all these horror stories.
I always think the truth. Many of the people who say don't do it have also never hired an associate.
Have also never hired.
Don't
right?
eat that restaurant. Have you ever had food there? No.
It's just my friend's neighbor's cousin.
Exactly.
Exactly. But the reality is there's some truth to those statements, because Dentist Partner Pros really came to existence because there is a industry standard that over 75% of associateships fail, and that's within 1 year. And there's lots and lots of different reasons. I think we should peel back the onion.
Dentists love stats, and I've done a lot of Instagram stories on this. And in my surveys, and you might have the real stats, it seems like, about half the jobs last less than a year. You're saying 75%. Let's dig into the why. If all of our crowns only lasted 8 months,
exactly.
Look into what's happening. Bob or Bright, what's some of the top 2 whys for failure? Dentists love to talk about failure, so lay it up for them, as I say in basketball. What are 2 layups of associate failure catalyst or causes?
Number 1, Paul, I would just say because the dentist hasn't really thought through how they're going to get this person busy.
Right.
All right. So there's kind of this expectation that if I bring somebody on, it's just going to kind of happen organically. It doesn't. It has to be super intentional, and you got to have a plan. But then I'd say the number 2 reason is that why it fails is they're so unique in terms of Dentists live in each other's sandbox all day long. And because of that, if they don't fit in terms of personality style, in terms of values, in terms of the dentistry that they do, then eventually, or actually very quickly, things just start to fall apart. So we found that this relationship is really more like a marriage than a business partnership or business relationship, because of how, frankly, intimate and close quarters a dental practice is.
And I like all that. What's interesting to me for both of you is that, but when it goes well, it's magic. When it goes well,
Yes.
say, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. When it goes well, like my friend Dr. Todd Fleischman, they can't imagine not having an associate. So now we've done some scaring, but now let's do some awaring and preparing. I call it the SAP system. Just made it up: scare, aware, prepare. Okay, so let's do with some awareness things for a second. Somebody's watching this video and they're thinking, being busy sounds like me. My spouse telling me I don't get home on time.
Exactly.
Saying, I always love like dentists. They're like, I can't afford an associate. I'm like, is this your K1 that says $927,000 a year that you made last year? So at least use the words work. There's words right. I can't afford is different than I don't want to make any less money, which I know is important. But let's see in the awareness factors. Someone's thinking, this might sound like me. I'm super busy. I got 50 new patients a month, and my next crown is booked out 7 weeks. Tell me some awareness factors for dentists who are in this process thinking about it. Numbers, facts, feelings, any.
So there's the two sides of it, right? You have both the emotional state, and then there's like the actual stats side of your practice. How busy is it? So the emotional state, the best place I would go, just if you want to find for sure answers, you could go to our website and you can request our free report. It's called Gaining a Wingman: 7 Signs an Associate Should Be in Your Future. But part of that, we really dive into this emotional state that you find yourselves in. We see it all the time. Dentists are facing burnout more so than any other time, I think we could argue. And a big part of this is because we hit this pinching point where we feel this need to replicate ourselves, but we decide not to for whatever reason. And you get to this point where you start to add more hours, you add more days. Our good friend and client of ours, Dr. Harmon in Phoenix area, was this exact person. Right. He was putting in the hours. It was getting to the point where he was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week at some point, because he knew he needed to service his patients, but he didn't feel like he could take time off because his patients were in demand. And if he took time off, he'd have to close the office, and then he couldn't pay staff and all these things. So it's this really contradictory thing.
I want to point out, I like to say interject with good ideas, not interrupt. Ask my wife, right? And she'll agree. I just like when you're adding such value, and neither of you are dentists. I'm the only one crazy enough to be a dentist here. People say, oh, become a dentist, it's very freeing. But that didn't sound so freeing, Brighton. That didn't sound like your client there, until they met you, felt very free. Do people come to you because they actually will use it in the most literal sense of the word? They don't have enough free time. They don't have enough freedom. They don't have enough free, I would say they can't freely decide to do something with their family. That does not sound like why they signed up to become a dentist.
It's not, Paul. It becomes a ball and chain, actually.
Yeah.
And it's a huge ball and chain to just keep getting heavier and heavier and heavier as time goes by. So there's this emotional component. But as you say, dentists like stats. And the things that we found is if a solo doc, for instance, is doing over 1.5, 1.6 million by themselves, and they've got 25 plus new patients a month, and let's say that they've got 2,500 active patients, they're at that breaking point where, a phrase that I use in a book I wrote a few years ago about small business leadership is that what got you there isn't what's going to keep you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good point. And also, one of our Job Connect clients, Dr. Christian Mullen, he's 1.6 million, solo dentist by himself. And it's also just not fun to say, hey, Bob, your tooth, it's like, it's broken in half, right? So we're going to do a crown. It's a hard hat for your tooth. We're going to protect it. You get them over and say, okay. And then they go up to your front desk and say, you can come in 11 weeks from now. It's just not a fun thing,
it's
right?
A buzzkill.
We have not sponsors of our group. If I talk to a company saying, oh, you want to get access to our community, help our community, our next spot is 3 months from now. It's demoralizing. It's deflating. and people on both sides of that. So I love that you have the 1.6 million, 25 new patients a month. People are coming to you, right? And tell me some of the prepare stuff, right? Whether it's financially, whether it's feelings, whether it's stats. Someone comes to you and says, I want to work with Dentist Partner Pros. We're going to share your free 7 signs here thing. But now how do they prepare to work with you?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to close up what we were saying earlier, because I love what Chuck Blakeman says in Making Money is Killing Your Business.
Yeah.
That true wealth is not just having the financial means, but also the time to be able to decide what you do and when. And as a dentist, oftentimes they go into practice because I can work 4 days a week and it's a really great lifestyle. But then if they're good, their practice starts to get busier and busier, and they find themselves in this position, right? So then we get to this point where we need to prepare, right? So let's say I've decided I need to bring on an associate. There's a couple of different ways you can go about it. One, you can use Dentist Job Connect. It's a great place to go and post and say, hey, I'm looking for another dentist. The issue is that's just one step in the process of actually bringing on a partner level associate, right? Then you actually have to start to recruit them. You have to start to vet them, interview them, run them through all the different assessments, background checks, things like that. And then you have to actually prepare offers and write the contracts. And oftentimes this dentist who was already super busy doesn't have the extra time to do all that stuff really well. So that's why we would say reach out to us at Dentist Partner Pros, because our white glove service takes care of all that. We come on site, we meet you in person, and we get a really great grasp of what's the ideal person that's going to be able to come in, fit with your practice culture, fit with you as the doctor owner, and fit with your team, all that stuff. And then we start to score those according to all the different interviews and background checks and assessments and things that we use to make sure that we find the right fit.
And I'm going to change my Job Connect logo, because we'll talk about this for a second. You know, my own awesome wife, we have some expansion opportunities in both of our companies, and she is hiring some, we'll just use it under the term of administrative positions for our offices, our companies, and it's literally blowing up her entire life, okay? Because she's supposed to be working on marketing, and there's no time to work on marketing when you're going through resumes. And this is for a position that is non-licensed. Just so you know, there's no Dental Nachos University yet. I do hope one day people grow up saying, I want to be a Dental Nachos team member, but this is for a non-specialized, license thing.
Yeah.
And I think what you said is so valuable. Hiring someone becomes a part-time job for people who don't have the time. And also, Bob, I'd like to also share this, dentist, not very good at it either, right? I mean, they're often not the right person to be the only one connecting with their associate. Tell us more about that. You're a dentist, been a dentist for 20 years, you're going to hire an associate. Why might you want other sets of eyes on the hiring process?
Paul, let me just give you the examples going back to Dr. Harmon, but we see this all the time. It's the scenario of, man, I am so busy. Oh, and by the way, I've got this friend from dental school, or this buddy that I know, or someone in my neighborhood, or whatever it is. And wow, we get along really well. Okay. But the thing is, they don't know what they don't know. And so you hire based upon emotion instead of based upon logic. And then the relationship just falls apart.
Yeah.
So
I always
Dr.
like,
Harmon,
I love what you were
ahead.
saying here. It's spectacularly nacho nuts to me when a dentist says, oh, I was going to use your Job Connect service, but my friend's niece is in dental school as a 3rd year, so I don't need to. I go, first of all, who says she even wants to work with you? Second of all, it's 2 years away. Third of all, this is why you need some professional help. And I love what you guys do. One of the things I'd like to talk about next is, let's talk about after they work at the practice, right? You get someone to working there. What are these check-ins? I think whether it's a check-in, whether it's Zoom, tell us more about how you kind of make sure that this relationship is bonding, we use a dental term, bonding together well.
So it all starts from the very beginning. So I'll take just 2 steps back. When we said there's a 75% failure rate, there's got to be a better way. And so through our process, we flipped that, and we have over a 90% success rate over the last 10 plus years in creating these thriving associateships. And our end goal is always to help them work towards some sort of partnership. Most of our clients are a little apprehensive, but once they realize what that may actually look like, they get excited about it. So when we say that we want to actually form a dental marriage, it's a little bit different than saying we're just going to bring another person with a license and a pulse, and hopefully they're a decent dentist too. And so we get really intentional throughout the whole matchmaking process, which is the vetting, the interviewing, and then we help write the agreements and negotiate those so that the dentist doesn't have to worry about that awkward, like, I don't want to get taken advantage of, but also I need to make sure I am taking care of myself. We just handle all of that for them. So we call that the priest phase. And then if they want us to, we actually will stay engaged for another 12 months in what we call the marriage counseling phase. And what that really looks like is we actually survey anonymously the entire team each month. It's like less than a 5-minute survey, so it doesn't take any time. And we get that feedback, and then we have a monthly call with the doctor and the new associate, and we basically facilitate and teach them how to start to problem solve. Because even if you find the perfect match, because Paul, have you ever had an argument with your wife, even though you guys were destined to be together? Have you ever had an argument?
I've never lost one.
1,000%.
I've never lost one. Is that help? No, just
But it's super helpful for these doctors to have a third party to basically come in and bring everyone back down to earth and focus on what actually needs to be focused on.
And that's
teach
because
them how to onboard, how to get them busy, all that stuff.
I mean, it's a Brene Brown thing, and it's not shouldn't be viewed as a battle, but she, talks about if you're in the arena versus not in the arena. So when you're in the arena, you're very emotionally charged. I literally just got a text 10 minutes from a Job Connect client, and I won't reveal it via HIPAA, but they had said, just use an example. I was going to offer a $600 a day guarantee. This is a great candidate. I'm going to have a guarantee for 90 days, and then it was going to go away. My previous associate's making double that. And they just wrote me back and they said they want $800 a day, right? She goes, is that a big deal? Should I look for someone else? I said, no, give them the $800 a day. She goes, why? I go, because if you like them, it's irrelevant, right? But when you're in this together, you just can't see it objectively. And when you have from outside the box saying this, and some things I'm sure, Bob, you see are a big deal, and they might be breakup reasons, but many times dentists, they magnify a problem. So I love that you guys take it from the beginning to the end. Now, as we wrap up, I founded Dentist Job Connect. We are supposed to be competitors fighting against each other for total world domination, and we're working together. And what Dentist Job Connect does is it's really a network for so many associates and practice owners to engage. We have DSOs, we have people getting their first associate, we have people getting their sixth associate. Some people have gotten four associates from us, some struggle to get their first one. And then we refer to you guys, totally a sponsor, when people need more TLC. If you had a client on here that was like, I don't know if it was worth it to pay all this money, and now they've done it and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I paid this money. What would they say to this audience, Bob? Because our dentist people, I don't know if you've noticed, they can be very, I don't know what the word is, cheap. The word is cheap, okay? The word is They get back from a $20,000 vacation that lasts 7 days. And you go, oh, hey, like there's a new thing you need to buy for $500. I can't afford that. I go, you just spent that on dinner last week. So tell us why they would say it's worth the investment and cost if they were here talking to us.
It's worth the investment and cost, Paul, because when you got it right, it's magic. And our whole commitment is to be able to make sure that we find somebody who comes, stays, makes money for the practice, and eventually is partner quality, hopefully becomes a partner. But through that whole process, that person is becoming really one of the most valuable assets within the entire practice in terms of actually providing a return on investment and also a return on lifestyle for the person who hired them. Because now you can take off, now you can have a vacation. Now the machine doesn't wind down when you're gone.
Right.
It has to be wind back up when you come back.
And that's why I call it's money and morale, because you got to keep owner dentist wants to go away for 2 weeks, great, but the team can't take off 2 weeks. And even if you just look at some of my associate relationships, conservatively, an associate over 6 years can collect $3.5 million for my practices, right? If I'm running a 10% profit on associates, not only is that $350,000 of additional profit, it's all the money that's come through the practice. It's all the satisfied patients. It's all the team open. So I think dentists should just reframe this. I wish dental school talked more about why paying consultants their fees, even though they feel expensive, wind up being amazing deals. Especially, I mean, have you guys gotten people to the partnership level, Brighton, where they've been associated?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
Our favorite one was just recently. It was a guy we helped hire. He was brought on as associate. He just became partner and purchased the practice from the existing owner. And now we just hired 2 more associates for him. So it was this full circle kind of thing. So we see it all the time. But I think there's this frame that needs to change where we sure it's expensive if I want to go buy a new, really nice new piece of equipment, whether it was like a new scanner or a CAD cam or whatever it is, that's probably 6 figures or more. We don't hesitate because we're like, oh, it'll help me provide better dentistry, right? Having the right associate and the right people in your office provides a much higher return compared to buying another piece of equipment. Not saying you shouldn't get that, but we should look at our people as also investments, because if you're running at, like you said, if you have like a 60% overhead, you pay them a 30% of collections or adjusted production or whatever, you're going to be netting anywhere from 10 to 20% on everything that they do. So you're going to continue to make more money, but also have the ability to have your life back.
And
go ahead,
and
Bob.
Paul, yeah. And the other point I wanted to make is this also allows that owner dentist to finally start to up level their own dental game and start to do the type of dentistry that they've been wanting to do or invest in, So what happens that we found when they get into this ball and chain situation that they practice what we call drive-by dentistry, which is, man, do I really think I want to talk about that right now? I think I'll wait 6 more months because I'm already booked out 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks. So, let's just not do it because I don't want to put the hassle on my staff. Now with this person there, just like Dr. Harmon, he now can talk about, what can he actually do that's going to take him from 5,000 a day and 8,000 a day to 20,000 a day, literally, because he's been able to have the time and the focus to go into a level of dentistry that he's wanted to do, because somebody else is now taking care of the bread and butter stuff. I'm
totally with you. And it's kind of as we wrap up on it, but also one of the things that I've done, I've inspired 2 dentists to hire their first associates in the past 6 months who are close friends, because this is why I say life happens when you're making other treatment plans. And even though it's difficult to think about, there's injury, there's illness, there's death.
Yeah.
Dentists have life insurance policies and disability insurance policies. And this is that policy for your practice. Because if you go into work and you care about those people at the morning huddles, and you care about those people who are at your team meetings, without you there as a solo practitioner, it doesn't matter what you've saved or what you've done. Without you there, it quickly goes away and those people will be unemployed. But when you have an associate dentist attached to your practice 2 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, at a certain point in your practice journey, I think it's really responsible. And I'm proud that I've gotten 2 dentists to basically move forward because of that. And I think there's so many good reasons to look into this. You guys have created an awesome handout. Wrap us up with, how can people reach out to you guys? And what's this giveaway that they can get from your website?
Yeah, so if they want to go to dentistpartnerpros.com, that's our website, dentistpartnerpros.com. And right there on the front page, you'll see a thing that says request your free report. And we recommend it. It's just a PDF download. We email it to you, no strings attached. If you want to learn more, we're more than happy to have a quick, what we call a discovery call, where we'll actually break down some of these things and say, are you actually ready or are you not ready to bring on an associate? We want to be able to help change the discussion for that private practice owner that's been thinking about this, but has heard all the horror stories. We're here to say there's hope. And we're confident that we can help you. And if it's not us, then Dr. Nacho's here is the one to ask too, because together, I think between all of us, we're here to change and say that
together we can make dentists feel less like this inside. Okay.
Exactly. That's what we were.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Just go to our website, dentistpartnerpros.com, request your free report, and let us know if you want to have a conversation.
Well, so glad to be friends and you guys sponsoring our group and supporting us. We look to connect and bond more dentists together to share in what I call the joy of full contact arts and crafts on people that don't want to be there. That's dentistry. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.